Is Mr. Foxglove a more interesting call-in teller of tales? Both of these commanders provide some form of card advantage. Mr. Foxglove needs to attack in order to get this advantage, while Cullen wants you to cast creatures to draw cards and then put lands into play. Both are incredibly powerful 5-mana Bant commanders, but I want to build Mr. Foxglove a little differently. I think his last line of text that cheats creatures into play is just boring. Now, there are plenty of commanders that let us cheat big creatures into play, like Akul the Unrepentant, Ilharg the Razeborn, Shadowfax Lord of Horses. Granted, these commanders are not Bant, but you get the idea. So what if we built a Creatureless Mr. Foxglove deck that revolves around using combat tricks and instant speed cards, allowing us to dump our hand and then refilling it with his attack trigger, just to do it all over again next turn? But before we get into that, I have a Discord server now. There's a link to that in the video description below. It's a great place to hang out with community members, get deck help, and just vibe. Alright, let's get into the rest of the video. Mr. Foxglove needs to attack in order to get his trigger, which can put him at risk. He just has lifelink, no other keywords. However, he doesn't actually need to connect, so we can take him out of combat with cards like Reconnaissance, Maze of Ith, and the back of Thematic Compass. There's also Labyrinth of Skophos, but that's basically 5 mana to Maze of Ith something, so I would probably pass on that. Another interesting card that might be more of a meta call but can go in any deck is Penance. This is great if you can shuffle your library, especially with Mr. Foxglove's ability on the stack, because you can put your entire hand on top of your library, shuffle it away, and then draw a fresh hand. Next, we want to keep our cute little fox safe. It doesn't have ward like Voja, hexproof, or any kind of protection built in. Now, there are some great artifact options like Swiftfoot Boots, Lava Spur Boots, and Winged Boots. I would suggest avoiding cards like Whisper Silk Cloak and Lightning Greaves, since it prevents us from targeting Mr. Foxglove. But cheap protection spells such as Tameo Safekeeping, Tyvar Stand, and God's Willing are great, all coming in at only 1 mana. Counter Magic's also great to stop any of those pesky exile board wipes. Nice farewell. Here's a negate, a counterspell, or an arcane denial to stop that nonsense. And of course, what kind of combat trick deck would we be without some combat tricks? Vines of the Vastwood, Simic Charm, Giant Growth, Selesnya Charm, Mutagenic Growth, and Show of Confidence are all cheap options that we can include to give our commander a giant buff. Show of Confidence is especially great since it has a pseudo storm effect. Now, speaking of storm, since we're trying to cast our entire hand each turn, storm could be a great inclusion in your Mr. Foxglove deck. Radstorm, Mind's Desire, and Shatterstorm are always fun to cast. Now, I would personally avoid Brain Freeze unless you add a combo to generate infinite mana and infinite storm. I would probably add Astral Steel. This gives our commander a super buff because it's a combat trick with storm. Or if you want to be really mean and kind of troll your friends, Temporal Fissure can bounce on your opponent's lands. Now, you might be tempted to add cards like Metallurgic Summonings or Shark Typhoon, but because of how low a lot of these spells' mana values are, I'm not sure how powerful these cards would actually be in the deck. But give them a try. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. Another thing we want to take into consideration is keeping our hand empty. So I want to add cards that let us play from the top of our library. Case of the Locked House, Future Sight, and Fortune Teller's Talent let us either cast spells, play lands, or both from the top of our library. Now, another subset of cards I think we should definitely look into are land untappers. While we can't run Seedborn Muse, we can run Wilderness Reclamation, Shadow of the Second Sun, and Bear Umbra as repeatable ways to untap our lands. And Bear Umbra doubles as protection for our commander, so that's just nice. The reason I think we should add these land untappers to the deck is because of how much interaction we're going to have. We want to be able to protect our commander not just on our turn, or stop someone from winning the game with a well-placed counterspell. And of course we have Planeswalkers, which aren't creatures, so they can go in the deck. Now, if you want to add for flavor, you could always add all of the new Bloomburrow flavored Planeswalkers, Teferi Time Raveler, Narset Harder Avails, Nissa Who Shakes the World, Karn the Great Creator, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Tameo Field Researcher, and Elspeth Sun's Champion. You definitely don't have to run all these Planeswalkers. In fact, I would probably just play Tameo Field Researcher and maybe Jace the Mind Sculptor. But if you want to run all of them, I don't blame you, they're really cute. Now, how do we win with the deck? There are a few different ways we can go. First, could be card draw payoffs, like Sphinx's Tutelage, Ominous Seas, and Psychic Corrosion. I think these are probably the worst win conditions since they require the most setup, and you'll need to have a way to shuffle your graveyard back into your library so you can actually mill out the table. Now, second would be a card like Aetherflux Reservoir. Because we're casting so many spells, and we're gaining life from lifelink, this should be really easy to be able just to ping down the table. Of course, you could also use Approach of the Second Sun. It's a little boring, but it gets the job done, and sometimes that's all you need. Or you could add some 2-card combos. You have Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal to get infinite mana, if you have enough mana rocks, and Infinite Storm, at which point I would definitely include Brain Freeze so you can actually mill out the table. Or maybe Rings of Brighthearth and Basalt Monolith for infinite colorless mana, then winning with a Hurricane or some other big X spell. Now before we wrap up this video, there are a few cards I wanted to showcase that I wasn't sure where they should actually fit in this video. Those being Dream Halls, Rammus Ecker, Ancient Shield, and River Song's Diary. Now Dream Halls is a weird card that lets you cheat on spells while you empty your hand. Now this effect is symmetrical, so your opponents also get to cheat spells, which can be a problem if they empty their hands. Rammus Ecker, Ancient Shield, makes 0/3 walls that can block pretty well, and on your turn it gives your defenders Exalted, which is a great way to buff your commander. And then finally, River Song's Diary can be filled up really quick in this deck, giving you great value throughout the game. And finally, if you do want to add creatures to the deck, Lady Foxglove, who had the name Foxglove first I might add, built an incredible deck from my original Bloomburrow deck idea article. I'll have her link tree and her deck linked in the video description below for you to check out. But she decided to include Elish Norn Grand Cenobite, Jin Cataxius Progress Tyrant, Storvald, Frost Giant Jarl, and Vorinclex Voice of Hunger. These are all great options if you want to cheat some fatties into play. Some other big creatures you might want to cheat into play are Hullbreak Horror, Nezahal Primal Tide, and Koma Cosmos Serpent. Again, make sure to check out her deck and mine in the video description below. So, what do you think of the idea of Creatureless Mr. Foxglove? Do you think it's too cute? Should I add some creatures to the final list? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And check out some of my other videos shown on screen here. Also, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications when all my videos go live. Alrighty nerds, I'll see you in the next one.